Good afternoon, everyone. Glad to have you here today. My name is Henrik Bick. I'm part of the communications team here with the Music Business Association. Happy to welcome you to our final webinar of the spring, now summer 2022 season. Before we get started and I introduce our hosts, I just have a couple of very quick housekeeping notes for you all. In order to connect with one another during today's session, be sure to change your Zoom chat settings to everyone, so that way folks here in attendance can see. And at the end of the presentation, we'll be taking a brief Q&A with questions from the audience. So feel free to drop those in the dedicated Q&A box on your Zoom dashboard. Again, we'll be answering those at the end of the session. Very brief news from Music Biz as the summer months kind of get started off here. Be sure to check our website often, musicbiz.org, or follow us on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, or Instagram at musicbizassoc. We'll be rolling out announcements, including more details for our recently announced Nylon Connect 2023 event taking place in London next year. New content in our series of articles, Keeping Tempo, as well as our podcast, The Future of What, hosted by our president, Portia Sabin, as well as details for future webinars and other virtual events that will fill out the balance of the 2022 calendar year. So without further ado, I want to introduce our speakers for today. Please welcome David Bagley and Robert Ward of Vistex. They'll be presenting a new cloud-based solution for your music needs today. Take it away, gentlemen.
Thank you very much. Just wanted to briefly mention and just tell you how much I enjoyed the Nashville convention. It was great. It was great to see so many people there attending, and it looked like it was almost up to pre-COVID numbers. It was a little bit expensive for me though, because just next to the JW Marriott is a place called Gibson Garage, and it's the retail store for Gibson manufacturing. I ended up going home with a guitar, so but it was a lot of fun.
Right, some work expenses and otherwise are unavoidable, unfortunately.
That's right. That could not be expensed, sadly. All right, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen now. And we'll get started. Okay. All right. I'm just waiting for this top part to go away. Do it this way. All right, so let me open up a new screen here. There we go. Okay, so today what I wanted to do was take you through our newest cloud-based solution called GTMS. So this is our next generation rights and royalties solution. As I mentioned, it's entirely cloud-based, and it's perfect for today because you've got remote workforce, you've got a partial remote workforce. I'm going into the office partially right now, but it's difficult to get everybody in one spot. So you need something reliable. You need something that can be efficiently accessed with just a web browser and an internet connection. Also because it's cloud-based and because it's Vistex backed, companies don't need an IT department. You don't need a server or any kind of infrastructure like that. And the other benefit to GTMS is it's going to allow you to sort of prepare for the future. So if you're a record company thinking about getting into the publishing business or the media business, or if you're a publisher and you're thinking about getting into recorded music, or whatever may come down the road in the future, whatever happens in the music industry, GTMS is ready for it, because the whole concept of GTMS is that it's one big data stack, one big bunch of data, and you utilize whatever you need for your departments to get the job done. So you would have publishing, recorded music, media, brand licensing information. It would all be part of the database, and as a user, you would just go in and utilize the data from that data stack that you needed. Okay. All right, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to log in as a user. Okay, so this is what everybody would do. So I have a few users here. I'm going to log in as Mike. All right, so now we're logged in here. So Mike is he's a jack of all trades. Mike has a lot of tiles in his opening page, and there are lots of other tiles to choose from. These tiles in this front page is they're configured by user. So depending on who you were, you might have just a few tiles. If you were an intern, maybe you just have a couple products and sound recordings. Maybe you were responsible for entering label copy, for example. So it all just depends on what your role is and what you do. So once you've logged into this main page, you have another customized tile that's always up in the top left, and this is called the My Overview page. And this is especially useful because this page allows you to customize what you see based on what your role is. So if you're upper management, for example, you might just want to see just some charts and graphs, and you might want to see what your top products are. You might want to confirm that maybe all of the sales files for that month have been properly inputted and that all of the errors have been corrected, right? So just kind of a sort of a top level view. If you were part of the creative team and maybe you just needed to research some rights management information, then this dashboard could look different. You might have maybe you'd have a product to look up, and then you'd have a screen that would show what interested parties were involved in that product, and maybe what publishers were involved with it. And if you were involved with sales, you'd have sales stuff. You get the idea. But these we call widgets, and we're creating more all the time. They can either be graphs, or they can actually drill you into other areas. So I could just go drill directly into contracts. I could drill directly into these products, or I can do these quick links too. So I could kick off a quick royalty calculation, or I could make a payment to an account, or I could even, this would take me over to the statement page where I could review, and then I could publish these over into our online statement portal. And I'm going to show you that in a few minutes. Okay, so now let's go back to the main screen. Another thing about this being a cloud-based solution, I can have lots of screens open. So if I want to look at the sales import manager, or I want to look at sales files, I can just kind of open all these up in different tabs, and that makes it easy to use. Let's see. Let me go ahead and go to the sales file tab actually, and let's say that Mike Smith is going to review some sales files. Okay. All right. So this is our initial. This is our sales file view. There's other views, but this is a good way to look and see what's come in, what's been matched, and whether it's ready to be released or not. So let me just talk about some of that. All right, this first file here. So this comes from this is a Spotify US distribution file. I've got a received date. I've got a status of released, meaning that I'm happy with this file. I've fixed all of the errors and I want to release it. So when I release it, that means that in the background, there's an interim calculation that's been scheduled, and this is scheduled to be daily or weekly or monthly, as often as you want to run that calculation. So if I click this and click it to release, then the next calculation is going to pick this up and include it in royalty calculations. This match process here, 100%, this means that the file has been uploaded and it's been matched to products in the system. Now, in GTMS, sales files are compressed and they are enriched, and then they can also be corrected as well. So if you have a 3,000 or 3 million line Spotify file, it may only be for a few hundred products, and GTMS can compress all of those sales lines down to that number of products based on whatever columns you want to. So if you're content compressing it by territory, configuration, and product, then it'll compress it down to that. It just makes it much easier to analyze the data, and it makes it much easier to do royalty calculations and get your royalty statements out. If I click on this, it's going to open up the sales file, and then actually from here, without running any report or doing anything, I can get some additional information. So, this is the header information, but I've got an analysis tab. And this analysis tab would let me quickly look and see what's in the sales file. Now, this particular sales file is Spotify, so you can see it's just for the United States. But if it were a multi-territory sales file, I'd be able to just at a glance see what my top territories were. And the same thing for configuration. If this were a sales file that had lots of configurations, I could get a look at that. Same thing for distribution channel. So obviously this is just digital, but then also income by source. So if you have any aggregators, and if you have a digital service provider that's responsible for pushing it out to smaller digital service providers, this would be a really useful graph. So you could just at a glance make sure that you're picking up all of the revenue that you're supposed to. And this is just a test file, so you can see there are just a couple of products, but you've got lots and lots of lines that come in on the Spotify files and the Amazon and the Apple Music files, but they're typically just for a small number of products. So it's great to be able to compress those. Okay, let me just go back to this screen. So also, if there are any errors, if there are any errors, I get this fix errors button here. And if I click on this button, it's going to take me into a workspace and kind of hopefully just let me quickly take care of those errors. Okay, so in this particular one, I got a couple problems. There's an unrecognized currency, probably a blank currency, and then there's an unrecognized product. So if I click on the if I click on the unrecognized product, you can see it shows me the line. But this may be hundreds of lines, but I could bulk select all of those products and just do it in one go. And now it's given me this screen here, and if I click on the suggestions, it's already in the background kind of figured out what it thinks that product is supposed to be. So it's given me a couple of suggestions, and I could just go ahead and click on this one and click apply, and then take care of that error. But that error that I fixed, it might have been for thousands of sales lines. Another thing to note is once I take care of that error, the system will remember that the next time it uploads that Spotify file. So I don't have to go into the product label copy and add an AKA code and do all that kind of stuff. The system just takes care of it in the background for me. So that's kind of nice. Okay, let's see, trying to get back here. I'll just go back to the main page here. All right, let's go have a look at the calculation manager. My computer cooperates. Oops. Let me just open a new tab. Okay, let's go to the calculation manager here. All right, so I mentioned that calculations can run in the background, and that's what you're looking at here. So you'll notice that there are three different calculation types. You have an interim run. So the interim run is going to be scheduled, and you can schedule that interim run for for as often as you want. So if I go to scheduling, I'm not going to schedule it by minute, but I might not even do hour, but I might want it to kick off daily or weekly or monthly, just depending on what my activity was for those calculations. So the interim run just picks up any sales files that I've released. And then there's also a pre-final run. So the pre-final run is, it's kind of like it's sort of a dress rehearsal for closing out the royalty period. In a pre-final run, it's going to lock down those sales files and prevent any new sales files from being released. And it's going to lock down the accounts and do a little bit more accounting behind the background. And then, of course, the final run is to close out the royalty period. All right, let's go back to the main page, and let's have a look at the statement tile now. Okay, if I go to artist statements here. All right, these are all of my statements. So one thing to note is you can see I have a status column here, and some of them say published. Published means that I have reviewed that statement and I want to push it over to the online portal so they can look at it. So if I open this up, if I click on, I'm going to click on Lily Fall, who I don't think is real. I think it's a fake artist. You can see I've got some information here: artist bio, details, payment information that I can look at. Just lots of stuff like that. I'm going to go back here and now click on the actual statement. This. And you can see I've got a PDF and I've got an Excel. I could open that up pretty quickly, take a look at it. Here's some summary information, and then down below I'd have all of the detailed information. So I might take a quick look at that. Maybe I'm looking to make sure that you know, the deductions have applied and that everything looks pretty good, at least like how I remember it. All right. Oops, I'm really having a problem with this top header thing. I don't know why it does that. There we go. Okay. So if I'm ready to publish that, then I could just go ahead and select it, and then I would just go over here and status, and I would just click on published like that. And then once I publish it, I can even, from this screen, I can notify Lily Fall, and I can just click notify, and she'd get an email saying, you know, you have a new statement available on the portal. Feel free to, you know, go and take a look at it. All right, let's see. Let's go back to the main page here. Let's go and look at this artist tracking tile. This is another, you know, good, quick, at a glance look where you can see this and you can say, okay, well, based on my interim calculations that are running in the background, I can see that, you know, I can see what I owe all of these people, and it's just kind of, you know, it would be going up and up as, you know, as you go along. So if I click on Stormy and open that up, it's going to give me some more information. It's going to give me some summary information. You can see I've got deduction information, and I could go across here and look and see all of the product information, net royalty by product, just lots of stuff. But the nice thing about this view and looking at it this way is it's already been just filtered down. It's not a statement, but all of the detailed information is filtered down to just that one artist. So that makes it nice to look at. Let's see. Let's go over to, let's have a look at the products. Okay, so these are all of the products that I have in my system, in this demo system, and you can see they all have a status of released. If they didn't have a status of release, then maybe somebody's in the process of entering label copy. You might have a company where maybe it goes through a few different processes, where somebody initially enters the information, and then you have somebody else that validates the information, and then somebody gives a final sign off and then clicks on released, something like that. If you've got thousands and thousands of products in your system, you've got some different search options. So this first box here is just a basic search. It's just a fuzzy search, so it doesn't matter if you're searching for artist or title or anything. It'll attempt to pull everything up for you. And then you've got some other more specific ones. You might be searching for products by a certain company, so you could set that up, or a certain label or an imprint in your system, or territory. Let me look up Lily Fall again. So I'm going to select this product. All right, so this is how the product metadata is arranged. It's very easy to use, very easy to see. You know, as you've noticed as I've been going through, everything's fairly intuitive. If it's in blue, that means that I can drill down further. So if I click on Lily Falls, it's going to drill me down to Lily Falls properties. These are the 8 tracks that I have on the product. If I click on any of these, if I click on any of the ISRCs, it's going to drill me down into the sound recording information. And from the sound recording, you can see I could go a bunch of different ways. I could say, okay, well, this sound recording's on 2 different products, but it, it might be on compilations, it might be on soundtracks, all kinds of other stuff. But then I can even drill all the way down to the song information, where I'd be able to see, publisher, and you can see Lily Fall is the singer songwriter, the composer of that as well. So let me back out and go back to the product here. Okay, so now we're at the product. If I'm in here and I want to, maybe I need to change some of the metadata, maybe it's incorrect. To do anything like that, if I have the permission, I would just click on that edit button, and maybe it was assigned to the wrong imprint. Maybe it's not. Maybe it's not Green Bottle. Maybe it's Electro Disc. So I can make that change and then save it. And then when I save it, it's saved, obviously. But throughout the system, if it's important, there's an audit trail. So on all of the screens, all of the tiles throughout GTMS, you'll always have that history button. And if you go to that history button, you can see that Mike Smith can't make up his mind. Yesterday he switched it from Electro Disc to Green Bottle, and then today he switched it back from Green Bottle to Electro Disc. But that information is kept there, and you might have hundreds and hundreds of entries. But it's nice, especially think about if it were, an agreement with royalty rates, and somebody had gone in and changed royalty rates. That would be very very helpful to know to know exactly what had changed. All right, let's see. Let me go back to the main screen. Just wanted to point out also that we also have the mechanical royalty side of this set up in GTMS. So, for physical products, it's a little bit less important every year, but it's still important enough that you have to have it. And you've got to have a system that has all of that detail. So you have to be able to put in, your statutory rate. It's got to be able to look at a statutory rate table and calculate based off of whatever minutes you have, and if it's a medley, you're going to have to consider all of the different songs. That's one of the nice things about Vistex is our legacy systems. They had all of this detail, and it's been an endeavor to take all of the detail from the legacy systems and make sure that it gets in our cloud solution as well. All right, let me take you over to our portal. Okay, so just quick recap. If I go back to this main page, Mike Smith has got a lot of roles, and I've taken you kind of to the sales file and showed you what the sales files look like when they come in. One thing to note on the sales files: how do they get into the system? They typically will get into the system using a hot folder. So Mike Smith would have just a hot folder for the DSPs on his desktop, and he'd just take the sales file and drag it in there. And then GTMS, once again, you would schedule GTMS to look in that folder as often as you needed, and then it would get uploaded automatically. Some other options would be if you had DSPs that had APIs exposed, where you could actually pull the sales directly. GTMS would be entirely capable of doing that because it's cloud-based. Going out and coming into GTMS is not a problem, and so APIs are available for that. Okay, let me sign out as Mike Smith. And we're going to go to the online statements portal. Okay, so I'm not going to log in as Mike Smith. He's a royalty administrator, but I'm going to log in as Stormy, and she's an artist. Okay, so this is the splash page for the online statements portal. Obviously, the images, the look and feel, logos, all of those things can be configured to your web page, or however you want to see it. And what you're looking at here is you're looking at an artist, Stormy, who is able to see their pipeline earnings. And that's important. You know, that might be important for some of your bigger artists. This, you know, they might not want to wait around until you know, until the end of a quarter to see their statements. You might want to say, okay, well, it's the first month of the quarter, and I'm going to push this pipeline income to you so you can see how you're doing, so you can see how you did in the first month. And then you might have a disclaimer saying, you know, these figures are subject to change and do not reflect finalized income. All right, so she has these pipeline earnings, and if I scroll down a little bit, I get a nice breakdown of what those earnings are. Okay, so if I roll over here, you can see I've got top territories. So, you know, big in Spain, big in Germany, Japan, others. Top sources, so it looks like there's just one source. And then you've got top tracks. So this is the pipeline information that you can share. And this view here, this scales to whatever. So she might be on a laptop, or she might be on a tablet, or she might even be viewing this from her phone, and this would all scale nicely. So she'd be able to look at it. Okay, so this is just the home splash page. And then next we have an analysis page, and this would allow her to do some deeper analysis on statemented periods. Okay, so not the pipeline, but anything that she has a statement to. So earnings by track, you know, that's great. I want to see earnings by territory. So now you've got a nice breakdown of different territories. You know, what are my total streams? What's my trends? You know, earnings by source, earnings by configuration. Nice, easy stuff to look at. Very intuitive. So you don't have to do training sessions with all of your clients. This is just fairly easy to understand. Just if you go to web pages, and so you've even got kind of an earnings summary down here. You know, this stuff she could export out to an Excel statement and look at later. Over here on the left-hand side, you can see we got these filters. So if I click on this filter, okay, she's got pipeline income. Okay, so she can look at that. But then also a couple of statemented periods. Okay, so as I mentioned, pipeline income isn't going to show up here, but these statement periods, maybe she wants to compare this quarter. You know, and she can click on that, and then all of this information will update accordingly. And then maybe she wants to compare it with another quarter, or, you know, combine them both. How much have I earned so far in 2021? You know, okay, so for the first half, it'll just go ahead and update all that information. And then from there, you know, you can filter by all kinds of stuff: product, track, territory. All right. If she just wanted to grab the statements, if the period had closed, she could go over here, and then all of the statements would be here. So any replacement statements, any historical information would all be here, and she could click on it. If I go to the latest one here, you can see got the PDF and the Excel that are available, and it just, you know, easily downloads to a PDF where all that information can be viewed like that. Okay, and then this repertoire tab, this would list all of the products that the record label carried. And you know, this is useful because if there was any incorrect information in the label copy, you know, a lot of times maybe the artist might be the one to catch that first. So you could go through, maybe the timing was wrong, or something like that. It would just be an opportunity to see and to confirm that, you know, all of the products were in the repertoire. Maybe there was stuff that wasn't in there for some reason. That would be, you know, that'd be something that you'd want to look into. All right, so that's the portal. I wanted to just real quick go back to the GTMS site. I wanted to show you one more thing. Okay, so from the main page, GTMS, yeah, it's logged in as Stormy, so I need to log out as Stormy. Stormy doesn't have access to the GTMS site, but Mike does. There we go. So from here, depending on what your role is, you can take care of the portal users. So if I was over here, you can see here's Stormy, and you know, she had access to pipeline income and a bunch of other bells and whistles, financials and stuff like that. You can turn this on and off for different clients. There may be some clients where all you want to do is give them the statement and that's it. But some of the bigger clients or some of the more cooperative clients, you may want to just, you know, have everything wide open so they can get a real deep dive on what they've sold. And then you can also create different profiles, so you don't have to go in separately to each one. You may have you may have a special artist, and then you may just have a standard user profile that you'd apply to different artists for their portal profiles. Let's see, where am I at? I think that's about all I wanted to show you without going down too far into other areas. But I want to point out that, of course, any of you can contact me and request a full GTMS demo, where we can click on all of the tiles. We can, you know, we can talk about what your specific needs are, and you know, and see if it's a fit for you. All right. Well, thank you very much. I'm going to turn it over, and hopefully there are a couple questions, or maybe there's some clarifications that I can help out with.
David, thank you so much for your presentation. Really insightful and really detailed walkthrough of what you've got going here. So thank you for taking the time to do this today. Folks, just a reminder, if you have any questions for the Vistex team, feel free to drop them in the Q&A box on your chat. We do have one question here regarding existing data. How can I migrate my data into GTMS?
Great question. Yeah, you got to get it in there. So, you know, as I mentioned before, you know, GTMS was designed, and it was designed to have all of the functionality and all of the, you know, all of the years and years of knowledge that we've put into our legacy systems. So we started with this recorded music configuration. That's what we just looked at today, and that will replace our legacy product eventually. Not completely replace, but that the companion legacy product would be Record Maestro, and Record Maestro clients can easily migrate into GTMS. We have a utility that we can run for that, so the database for Record Maestro can migrate into GTMS. If you're not a Record Maestro client, that's fine too. We would have easy to use templates, and then they would get imported. So there's an import utility for non-Record Maestro clients. If you're a Record Maestro client, that's great, because we know exactly where everything is supposed to go, and there's a home for everything in GTMS.
Awesome, thank you so much. It looks like we got another question popping in. Can producer or participant royalties be automatically crossed and deducted from artist statements?
The answer to that is yes. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And we can have a peek at the artist statement. I may not have any producer in here, but let's see. But yeah, so that would be handled in the linked agreements. So when you link those, you can choose exactly how you want to cross the relationship, what percentage you want to cross, you know, all that kind of stuff.
And along similar lines, another question just popping in: does the system handle profit split accounting?
Yes, it does. Some of it depends on the complexity. So a lot of times the profit split agreements they're sort of a combination of standard agreements and profit split. So in Record Maestro, just through the decades that we've put functionality into Record Maestro, we've managed to accommodate all of the new deals that our clients and our record labels have brought to us. And if they give us something new, then we look at it and we figure out how to accommodate it. And that's pretty much what we do in GTMS. A lot of times, different agreements, they gain popularity for a while, and then another agreement type will gain popularity. Like the 360 deal, for example. Joint venture agreements are gaining popularity, which is great because they're simple and transparent, and so we'd be able to accommodate that in GTMS, and we would look at the specifics during a requirements gathering, for that client.
One more question just coming in, multi-part, so we can go back to it if we need to. Can you speak more about the API for sales income importation? What is the setup process for that? And are there existing DSPs or distributors that are currently live on that API?
I can speak to some of that. So as far as DSPs being live on the API, that would just depend on the DSP, and I don't have a lot of visibility to that. I know that most of our clients are still kind of getting the old spreadsheet email, and I think that probably in the near future that should go away. When GTMS GTMS is able to handle any API that a DSP would want to expose, however that worked. In the meantime, our initial clients are probably going to end up dropping a folder, or dropping a sales file into a hot folder and having it imported. And the way that gets mapped, it gets mapped through column mapping. When you go onto GTMS, the clients that preceded you have already brought the DSPs. So when you buy GTMS, it's obviously going to have all of the standard. It's going to have a Spotify import definition and an Apple, and most of the other ones. It's there aren't really very many outliers anymore. But if there was, then there'd be a generic import definition that you could use.
Thank you. And it looks like we're nearing the end of our Q&A here. So I just want to thank you again, Dave, for your time today. Thank you to Vistex for putting this presentation together and this in-depth look at this platform, which offers complete visibility into industry professionals' rights and royalties. Really appreciate your time today. Folks, if you want to reach out to the team, be sure to visit vistex.com for any other lingering questions or for some more information on the GTMS platform. Again, Vistex, thank you all so much for being here today, and thank you all for attending as well.
Yeah,
couldn't have done it without you. And
thanks everyone.
Look forward to welcome you to the next webinar.
Yeah, thanks very much. Take care, everybody. Thanks for coming.